Hogstye.
Hey everybody, it is Alex, it is Dave, it is Steve, it is the Hogstye. We have a lot to talk about this week. We have like 20 topics. But do we want to vamp? Do we want to talk about the weather or some other nonsense
Wait,
first?
we don't want to talk about the weather. The weather, that's vamping for people who don't know how to vamp, Alex.
Right. Do we want to talk? I mean, we were talking about copyright law for music before the show, but we'll get into copyright stuff later too.
Well, that's true. I mean, the copyright stuff came up because at one point I was going to record my own version of Pink Floyd's Money for IJB.
Right.
And I very briefly thought about just recording it and rolling the dice, and then I realized what a raging jerk Roger Waters was, and so
the money that
then I
contacted
the company that manages the copyrights, in the rights administration stuff, and they sent me a 15-page document. At which point, ironically enough, the song "Money" was not worth the money that it would have taken for me to record the song "Money" for 30 seconds of it for a tiny podcast. So I let that go.
If you want, I don't remember. You knew the number at one point. I'm shocked. I'd be shocked if you remember it anymore. But whatever people out there think it is, add zeros. Just multiple.
Yeah, it's
zeros.
a lot. Yeah,
many zeros. Yes.
A plethora of zeros.
It would have been more zeros than I would certainly be willing to pay for the IJB podcast.
Right. And
no, people, fair use does not mean you can steal anything you want for a few seconds. That is not what the fair use doctrine is.
And not for that intent, no.
Fair use doctrine is, like you're going to analyze something, you can play a tiny bit of it that's what fair use is. It's not like, hey, I just want a free 30 seconds of Pink Floyd's Money.
Exactly. All right, we got a lot to talk about.
Is that enough vamping? We could rate AV, women again, the women of the audio video industry. If you want,
we're not going to do that again. We're not going to do that again. All right, let's get into this week's show. We're going to talk about training camp first because there's a lot of off the field stuff that we're going to get to later, guys. And I know that's like Steve's passion. I love talking about that stuff almost more than the off season stuff sometimes. But we're going to save that because if we don't, we're going to do 2 hours on that and not talk about training camp. Or, I'm sorry, off-season team activities, not training camp yet. Those are two different things, technically. So, OTAs, the big story that everyone's freaking out about, Chase Young no-showed again for OTAs.
Shocker.
It is optional. That is what the O is supposed to stand for, apparently.
Okay, can I like to point out that this man is supposedly a leader on the team, and he is in the final year of a contract and needs to prove himself, and he is also from the area, yet he is going to be gone. Chase Young is really hyped to be Chase Young. I don't think he's that hyped to actually play football. I got to be honest. I saw this guy from day one. I got to pat myself on the back for this.
Well, it's funny you say that because there's one or two accounts I've seen continuously going through talking about how ungrateful we are as fans to have a prize bull in Chase Young and how much of a dominant force he was. And they always go, look at his rookie year. Look how good that was. Look how great that rookie year was. It was okay. It wasn't. And he starts talking about the fact that it was unlike most any other rookie years you've ever seen. I didn't dive into
that. Is a bit.
That's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. I mean, he won Rookie of the Year. Defensive, good for it, but I thought it was a fairly weak Rookie of the Year class.
Right.
And he was a big name more than anything.
But it's just to think that this guy doesn't have anything to prove going into this year. I don't know what you're watching. I don't know if you turn on a game and just close your eyes and dream about the outcome while it's actually unfolding in front of you. I have no idea what you're looking at. But the guy has not been the dominant player that the number 2 overall pick should be at this point.
I mean, if we're being honest, and I don't it's not like he's even in the top 10 for sacks for a rookie or anything. No. I don't think he's even in the top 20.
He had 7.5 sacks as a rookie, I think it was.
He did, and the record was Javon Curse, who had 14.5. So I mean, he heft that.
I just think I mean, fans are fans for a reason. It's short for fanatic. They're trying to root for the guy. He's a local guy, so he probably has more fans than usual. I understand, but I mean, I just saw through him immediately. He was just way, way, way overhyped. I think, Dave, it was you maybe that came up the LeVar Arrington comparison. I think it was you. One of the two of you did, which is very, very apt. But LeVar Arrington was a guy who had all the physical talent in the world. He had the collegiate resume, all that stuff. And he was not a flop. He was a pretty good player, but ultimately it failed for a variety of reasons. And it's kind of the same reasons.
There were injuries involved. There were a lot of things.
Injuries, he didn't play well
within the system.
That's what I was right about to say. Look at James Smith-Williams was a more than adequate replacement for Chase Young.
Right.
That's why I said several weeks ago, I'm like, if I had to choose between him or Montez Sweat, I'd go Montez Sweat because you saw how well he played within this. And obviously he wasn't the guy that was freelancing.
Right.
As a comment that was made with Ron Rivera over a year ago. So, and they seem to work well when he's off the field. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Chase Young, he's got a world of talent. I mean, he's everything that you would want in terms like how you talk about like Richardson. He just fell from the quarterback factory in the draft that we talked about. He's the same way, but he just doesn't have that Nick Bosa motor that you hoped he had. He doesn't have that next level.
You know what it is, and it's the lack of tenacity. Like, you don't ever get the feeling that he's like a shark when there's blood in the water when he's out there.
That's a very, very good analogy. And where did anybody say where he is? Is he off filming commercials?
See,
or
and that's the thing.
James films or something?
There has been nothing said about why he's not there. By the way, Montez Sweat also not there. Charles Leno not there. My thing is, Montez Sweat had an okay season. I'm not as mad that Montez Sweat isn't at an optional thing. Charles Leno, not great, but okay season. And none of these players have said we're not there because of a contract. We're not here because we're unhappy or anything. In fact, Rivera's saying that he trusts Chase Young. He's saying all those things.
He's going to say that. He's not going to bash him.
Right. He trusts these guys to come in and be in shape and all that.
He's going to get fined if he says something else too. But here's the thing: you guys have one job that pays you 7 figures a year in some cases. In the case of
in all their cases,
Chase Young, yeah, true, all those guys. I mean, is that really less important than whatever thing you're doing, which isn't going to be that important, to be perfectly honest?
Sure.
Well, if you have a family thing. You have a wedding.
Granted, if you have a family thing, I'm way down with you there. But they probably don't. Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Even if there's a family reunion or whatever, I mean, I gotta go play football because this is what's paying all of your bills. All you people standing in front of me.
And if he's so concerned about his next contract and he's going to approve a year, just have the Cam Curl approach. I mean, Cam Curl still showed up. He was there for conditioning drills and everything like that, but when it came to on-field stuff, he stayed on the sidelines. He was still there with the team. He still, communicated, was acting like a leader, but he was still protecting himself because he's in a contract year and he wants a new contract. And I've got no problem with that.
He was there.
Sure. Yeah, he was still there. Protect yourself for a contract. I mean, this is your career. One bad injury and you're done. I get that, but at least be there. Just be there.
I mean, if I was an NFL player, I wouldn't miss a single OTA absent a family emergency or something. I mean, what else are you doing? I mean, I gotta, I'm sorry to say this, but being an NFL player is not that hard a job. It's a lot of physical stress. Don't get me, I'm not trying to minimize that, but in terms of effort produced, they work from July, work where they have to work from July through the early January, and that's it.
Right. You have a nice bit of time off there.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not minimizing the physical contributions. I certainly couldn't do it, but it ain't that much time. You got months and months and months off every year.
And it is physically grueling, of course. We all accept that. But, I think, and to me, it all comes down to, I'm not even mad if you're not there because of we don't know why any of these guys are not there. That's what I think irks us as fans. And people are, well, they have a right to no, they're entertainers. This is their job, is to be accountable.
They are public figures.
You are, like, this is the nature of the beast of being a pro athlete, of being a politician, of being in television, is you're under a microscope. You cannot like that, then go get a job selling insurance.
Exactly right. And I think there's a difference also between Charles Leno,
right,
and then Chase Young and Sweat. Leno's an established veteran. He's not trying to impress anybody.
Mm-hmm.
A guy
he has a pretty good reputation too. That plays into it.
I mean, I think he ought to be there, but I mean, I'm willing to give him a lot more benefit of the doubt and slack than I am the dude who's supposedly the defensive star. Because this is 2 out of 3, if I recall.
Yeah. And look, if it does turn out they're doing it because they're unhappy about their contract, honestly, just say that then. I don't care. Like, if that's the reason, come out with it.
Why would I don't know why Chase thinks he would deserve a big contract.
Well, I don't know why Chase would, but I could understand Montez Sweat more wanting it than Chase. He's at least performed decently.
Yeah.
And he's in a contract year. I get that. So all
Even
those guys were out
for that.
Yeah. The other big news, of course, is that Armani Rogers, the tight end who was a converted quarterback, who a lot of people had some hopes that he might become something. He's apparently done for the year. He tore his Achilles jogging on the field, is what I understand it was. It was some non-contact injury.
That's not good.
No. So he's done for the year.
Well, at least Washington spent a high draft pick on a tight end instead of drafting a bunch of defensive backs.
Well, it was a great deep tight end draft. So, you could have gotten a great starter.
They did this to themselves.
3 freaking cornerbacks.
Yeah, they did this to themselves.
Yeah.
Everybody in their mother knew that Washington needed to draft a tight end.
Yep.
I'm just wondering if they really hold Cole Turner and Bates at a particular level that we don't see right now.
They do.
Maybe
they must.
Maybe they think that, especially Cole Turner, maybe because he has the athletic profile.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they see.
Profile, sure.
Maybe they see that in him. I don't know.
I guess they must.
I guess so. I mean, if I'm being honest, if you asked me, and I don't know every team's full tight end room, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people would put us at 30 to 32 in terms of overall tight end quality in the league.
I would put Washington at 30 to 32 ish, something like that.
I mean, Logan Thomas, when healthy last year, was okay. He's not what he used to be. I guess he's functional, but he's probably more of a number 2 if you had a good tight end 1.
Probably.
So yeah, that they're not in a great spot at tight end.
I would put Washington's quarterback room down there at 30 also.
Yeah, I would put quarterback above tight end though.
I wouldn't put quarterback above. They may be last in the NFL in quarterback rooms, to be honest.
No, Tampa Bay is last.
Who's Tampa Bay?
Exactly.
No, I'm asking.
Baker Mayfield and Kyle
Trask right now is, I think, their quarterback.
Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I have to compare stats or something, but I don't know who I would put above or beyond. I mean, Baker's proven something, but he's proven that he's mediocre. Yeah. So I don't know, but they're down. That's certainly way down there too.
I think Jacoby Brissett doesn't put him down that low. I mean, probably maybe in the lower 20s, maybe.
Yeah.
I like
You're hanging your hat on Jacoby Brissett.
I think he's a capable quarterback. He showed that. I think he's a good quarterback. I think Sam Howell's got some upside of potential, but I wouldn't say they're down 30 to 32.
I would, but that's me.
So speaking of Sam Howell, obviously with OTAs going on, a lot of focus is on Sam Howell.
Oh, he had a beautiful pass to a coach. It was wide open on the sidelines.
I saw that one. He's had some good passes, if you've seen the clips. A couple.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think he has the world's strongest arm. It's above NFL average, but not elite, which, you can make do with that. But there was apparently a great moment where Eric Bieniemy chewed Sam Howell out because Sam Howell threw a pick and didn't run after the corner who, made the pick. And Bieniemy said, if you throw it, you got to run and get it. That was something along those lines, which is apparently the one takeaway we're getting from reporters out there and, the fans who are out there on day one is Eric Bieniemy is very high energy.
There were fans. They let fans attend OTAs.
Yep. Super fans, special people.
Why didn't we get called?
Because we're not season ticket holders, I guess. I don't know.
Dave is a season ticket holder.
That's true. Dave is a season ticket holder.
I mean, you'd think they'd want me as a super fan, but I mean,
sure.
Okay,
yeah. I was that part of the special super select secret. It was their usual guys. They're yes men or who got in, Steve.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh yeah, they're unpaid hype men.
Yes.
We know who they are.
Yeah, and
they're
I like
fans.
some of them, but that's
they're
what you
fans.
are.
I mean, I prefer to be blunt and honest, but okay.
I think we all would. That's why we're here. And
that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is the appeal of what we do. We're gonna always tell you the blunt and honest truth. If you want fan service, go
at least,
see.
At least what we see is blunt and honest truth. I will admit, it's opinion. That's fine.
Well, yeah, but we're gonna be blunt and honest. We're never gonna, wave the flag. And if you want that, go see the hog farmers or whatever.
Yeah. And by the way, even if you want blunt and honest, go see the hog farmers and help their charity. They do good things there.
Yeah. I'm not trying to disparage them. I just mean that's who it comes to mind.
The only thing I will knock them for is those overalls are just awful. You guys got to come up with something better, guys. If we're being blunt and honest, everything else cool. I love the face paint.
They do. You know what it is? It's a 21st century version of the Hogettes. That's what.
It is. I think everyone knows that, and they admit that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I ran into somebody who went to college or high school with one of the Hogettes and was talking to me about them the other day. And he was going really in depth about it. And I was like, that's wild. I didn't realize they're all in their late 70s now, the Hogettes.
Well, yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of them I think might be dead.
You don't.
Or some of them.
You're not going to tell us the details, apparently.
No, it wasn't that interesting. But
okay.
He literally went on about this one dude for 10 minutes.
It's not like one was a raging cokehead and nothing like that.
There was nothing actually interesting he said about the guy other than he went to high school with him.
He had a knack for prostitutes while he was snorting heroin. Oh, wait, that's Hunter Biden. Sorry.
Oh, man.
I don't think any of the Hogettes had a knack for snorting heroin back in the day. How could you with the pig nose on?
I don't know. Do you snort heroin? I don't even know.
You could. Okay. You can snort anything if you try, Steve.
Ask Hunter Biden. He knows.
I know nothing about any of that, so.
I don't either. That's why I asked.
I should, but I probably don't. Do you want to talk about wide receivers? Dave, you're writing a wide receivers piece. Let's talk about that real quick, the receivers on the roster, and then we'll get into the crazy.
But before you get to that, I do want to pimp Dave's other piece. This week. He wrote a piece called "Is Sam Howell Positioned for a Breakout Year?" And what he's doing here is going over, in part, how the offensive line it will impact Howell's performance this year. And what I got a kick out of, Dave, I texted you this.
Yeah, right.
You have a chart in here somewhere that lists Mahomes, Herbert, Hurts, and Jackson, and then called those people Mahomes' peers, which I thought was just funny, But be that as it may, it's good because he actually goes through, a man of my own heart here, and goes through an attempt to do a statistical prediction for Howell for the year. So if you're into that kind of thing, which I am, go read it.
Dave had a good one. You had a really good one that we'll get to later too this week that we'll talk about. The one about Davis and the lawsuit.
Me. You're okay. Yeah, we'll get that. If you'd ever hurry up and get into the fun stuff, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Dave, list all the wide receivers so we can get to the fun stuff.
Okay, so wide receivers. Pull this up.
Casimir Allen is the future of the position group.
Did that just really close out on me? And it did. Yeah. Well, you know what? Actually,
let's just freestyle this. Terry McLaurin. Well, Dave.
Let me go to the Casimir Allen right there. Actually, but the one thing about Casimir Allen that I think many people should be excited about is that he is the antithesis of Dax Milne. Because Dax Milne, thankfully, we have a guy that can actually return kicks.
That's nice.
Yes. And in college, he averaged. Oh, I got the wrong one there. There we go. His He wasn't used much in the actual passing game. I think his highest career total for receptions like 49 receptions last year with over 400 yards. But his biggest attribute that he had for UCLA was definitely the kicking game, where he averaged last year 40 yards per return. I'm sorry, 40 yards per game, average 24.6 yards per return. The guy is a real electric player. He's got a lot of speed, especially straight line speed. The one thing that's kind of a knock against him is his size, of course. He's only 5'9", 175. So as far as terms of for offense, he'd be a little more of a gadget type player. He'd be a guy who come in for like jet sweeps and so forth. Someone who could probably give a little relief to Curtis Samuels from time to time. But where his biggest asset, though, no doubt, is going to be in the return game. And that's something that this team has needed for far too long, as we know very well.
Yeah, they made a big mistake last year, letting a very good returner walk for
peanuts. They should have kept Brandon Banks.
Yeah. Well, after he got stabbed, he was never the same, Brandon Banks.
Right. But
Washington just has a habit of not wanting to keep returners who are pretty good returners, is my point.
Right.
And the one thing with DeAndre Carter too is that he was proving himself as a receiver too. I mean, you had a guy that would have given you that number 4, number 5 receiver spot that would have been one of the better 4 or 5 guys in the league as a wide receiver and depth wise. And then, oh, by the way, he can return a kickoff or a touchdown for you once in a while. I mean, like, why would you let something like that walk, especially for $1 million is all he signed for with the Chargers?
Yep.
So, and that didn't make any sense to me at all.
Tell us about Zion Bowens.
Zion Bowens, he is a guy that I know very little about.
That's what we do.
Okay. Yeah, we need to find some Hawaii fans to find out something about Zion Bowens.
Okay, so Zion Bowens, 6'1", 200 pounds.
Yep.
A rookie undrafted free agent out of Hawaii. And, yeah, I mean, I'm just kidding. I mean, he's not, he's a long shot to make the roster.
Right.
Anyway. Right. I mean, clearly the if you want to talk about the position group, it obviously starts with Terry McLaurin. We don't need to repeat him necessarily. No. The big question would be, I think Jahan Dotson has as much potential, if not more, than does Terry McLaurin. So it's a matter of, can the two of them grow together, and do they actually have a quarterback who can play? But they do. This team legitimately does have 2 highly talented receivers. Whether or not they can use them is another story. But where I want to start with, let's start with this. De'Ami Brown, kind of the number 3 guy, but
you think he's the number 3 guy, not Curtis?
I think Curtis is more of a gadget player. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a fine reasoning, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to be involved a lot in the running game, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So talk to me about what you guys think of De'Ami Brown in terms of his ability to be a slot, like a permanent kind of starting slot receiver, because he hasn't really gotten that.
That's not. Yeah, that hasn't historically been his role at all. That's
where he's going to have to play. If he wants to play a lot, that's where he's going to have to play.
Well, I know De'Ami Brown last year, he averaged 28 yards per reception. Now, granted, that was only on 14 targets.
Right.
And he had and his yards per target was actually the most on the team at 10.2. Terry McLaurin at 9.9. So in his routes, he's actually averaged the deepest routes per target on the team. Granted, again, it was only on 14 targets. I get that, but you could see how the team was starting to utilize him.
He's the long ball guy. He's the deep guy. I mean, this is why I brought it up. He's not going to be the X, because Terry McLaurin is the X receiver, and then Dotson is going to be the split wide guy on the Z on the other side. And so, I mean, if De'Ami Brown is going to get significant playing time, it's going to have to be in the slot, in my view.
He's probably the best candidate to play that Tyreek Hill role in it that he played in Kansas City. I mean, granted, he's not Tyreek Hill, I know that, but
No.
in terms of just stretching the field and getting past that defender for that deep ball off of play action or RPO and so forth, I mean, he could definitely fill that role fairly decently, and it'll really help open up that running game. That's the one thing about our receiving core that should go a long way if this offense is run anything like Kansas City's in the passing game. Is going to open up the running game. And it's actually going to help this porous offensive line, which, they made some improvements. You can't deny that, but how much this unit improved is what we're going to find out going into the season. Nobody really knows because Andrew Wiley, he had a good year in terms of how long he held his. He ranked top 5 in terms of holding blocks. He held his blocks like, I think it was listed as I have in the article 2.5 seconds, which was actually a very good number. The only problem is that he played with a quarterback he improvised a ton, and he did for good reason because he's just that good to do that, and he was able to. He had the mobility and everything, so it's hard to hold a block much longer than 2.5 seconds when your quarterback is trying to make that play downfield. So I think that kind of hurt his numbers in terms of his actual overall pass protection grade. I think he actually was much better than what I think we initially gave him credit for last year. And we're going to find out this year. But the only problem is you kick Cosme in the guard. Is that going to be good enough? Gates, can he stay healthy at center? Who knows? We have, Stromberg and Daniel. Brandon Daniels. I mean, I think there are 2 guys that are going to be pretty good for offensive linemen, but are they starting material? Stromberg, I think, yes, at some point.
Where's he going to play, though?
Stromberg is really a true center. He can't kick out the guard.
That's right. That's my point. They just spent
$16
million on a center. Why would you draft a center high up in the draft? It makes.
Well, if you think about it, Gates is still coming off a horrific injury that he had.
He's still making $16 million. He's going to play.
Oh, he's going to play, but if you lose him, who are you going to have to replace him? Nobody.
I mean, they did go through 4 centers last year, so
I get it, but you're going to spend. So the one offensive lineman that you're going to, of all offensive line positions you need, which is tackle and guard,
and center.
The one thing you didn't need was a starting center. Because you signed a starting center.
Yes.
And what do you draft? You draft a center. Ron Rivera is not good in the draft. I'm sorry, he just isn't.
I mean, they did not do nearly enough for that tackle position at all.
They didn't do good at that. They didn't do good on offense, period, in the draft.
No, they did not.
Yeah. All right, getting back to the wide receivers and, your question there, Steve, just it is kind of a wild card because I look at the roster and I look at the 4 key guys, Samuel, McLaurin, Dotson, and Brown. Yeah, none of them are our true slot, right? Like, they're all small guys, so I guess you could have them all be that, that very popular quick twitch slot guy. Obviously that's been in vogue for a while now, but none of them do that naturally. It's very interesting when you think about it, because, like I said, Samuels is really a gadget guy. You're going to have him do some screens. You're going to have him do a lot of runs. You don't really ever think of him, doing like a quick slant in the slot.
I mean, who it has the body type for? I don't know if you can play at all, but I mean, Casimir Allen is the body type that you're talking about.
Oh yeah,
5'9", 175.
Well, but Dotson has that body type.
Yeah,
Terry just by virtue of having the best hands, probably would be the best at it.
Terry's your ex, though. And,
you're not.
Well, I know when it comes to Dotson, he's played, and when he was in Penn State, he played a lot of snaps in the slot too. So he's definitely.
I think they'll move him around, but at the end of the day, I mean, he's going to be on the field every time. He's going to be the Z.
Yeah.
Well, I think it just goes back to De'Ami Brown. I think they're hoping that'll be the guy in the slot, like you were talking about.
Yeah, I think so.
I just, when you look at how he runs, I don't see him being that type. Like, he's not going to be the guy who makes like a quick move to get open.
I'm just saying, if he wants to be on the field, that's where he's got to be.
Yeah. Well, you got to put him there. Maybe it just means you're having him run deep routes from the slot, and that's where you're trying to open up the field the whole time.
I mean, the real question to me is, will Dax Milne be an All-Pro this year, or will it take till next year?
That's a good one. The question to me is, are we actually going to have a whole receiving core under 6 foot once cuts happen?
Well, technically, De'Ami Brown is 6 feet, so no.
Well,
and yet,
okay, 6
and
feet,
yet Mitchell
6 feet
Tinsley
or
is
less.
6'1".
And Terry McLaurin is also 6 feet.
Right.
But I would say 6 foot and under, that's possible.
Yeah.
Because
it's going to be a very short receiving group.
Because they have 2 guys who are tall, Marcus Kemp and Bryson Tremaine. Beyond that,
they also have a Jalen Sample.
Sorry, yeah, I forgot him. Yeah.
Yes.
And they also have Mitchell Tinsley too.
Mitchell Tinsley
a whopping
listed 6'1". Yeah, I'm talking about the big guys, big guys.
Right.
It's Tinsley, Sample, and
Kemp. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
They do not have a lot of size here, man. And given that we know nothing about these guys, would you be shocked if any of them made it? I mean,
well, I mean, somebody will make it. It always is.
I think Kemp will just by default.
Well, okay, so let's talk about this.
So he's a B-enemy guy.
Well, so the vets, so the locks. Who are the locks? Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, De'Ami Brown, Curtis Samuel. Those are locks. Right. So there's really 1 or maybe 2 at most active roster selections on here.
Right.
You got to say whoever's the kick returner is going to be one.
I think Casimir Allen. Absolutely.
Okay. So there you go. And so you really between Zion Bowens, Marcus Kemp, Dax Milne, Jalen Sample, Mitchell Tinsley, and Tremaine Bryson, you got 0 or 1 slots at most.
Right.
Well, Dax Milne won't even be on the active roster for week 1. I'll throw that one out there.
Okay, so we're getting rid of him. I don't have any opinion over Mitchell Tinsley or Tremaine Bryson. I tend to go with what you said, which is Marcus Kemp is a guy Eric Bieniemy knows.
Yeah.
You know.
It would make sense that that's his move.
And then the leftovers end up on the practice squad,
Right. Or maybe not even,
At most. I'm saying at most.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing about Mitchell Tinsley, though, I mean, he's not a burner. He's a decent route runner, but his hands is as big as asset. He's very soft with his hands and everything off his scouting report and everything. So he's kind of an outside guy, kind of like with a decent shot to really challenge for that spot. But like I said, I think Kemp just gets that by default anyway, and Casimir Allen just brings way too much to the table in a return game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's pretty much a set group for your starters.
Yeah,
you're looking for a couple of roles here. You're looking for that kick returner. You're looking for maybe a big man, or really, I guess the question about Kemp would be how is he on the other aspect of special teams, because that's the only way they're playing him, right? Like, so those are going to be your keys with.
Well, he was definitely a special teamer in Kansas City. He played a lot on there, so.
Okay.
I think he definitely will carve a role there.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's a good group. It's not an exciting group to talk about because we kind of know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yep. Hey, guys, we'll see some of you in preseason, and that'll be that. All right, Steve, let's get to the fun stuff. And since
the other part was fun too,
But it's the real fun stuff for you.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your article in the Brian Davis crazy story, or do we want to get into the patent stuff?
You're the host, dude. Pick one.
All right.
I can babble about both.
Let's sell some crazy here. Brian Davis.
Okay, crazy. So, Brian Davis has filed a lawsuit, but it's not what you think.
Right.
And it actually is fairly insightful. I did write a column about this. I got to say up front, I'm a licensed attorney. No, my name isn't Steve Thomas, so don't try to look. I know some of you have, but you won't find me. But I did represent Bank of America. Do not represent them now, but nonetheless, I feel conflicted a little bit about talking about them. So my words about Bank of America would be more restrained than I normally would when I'm talking about stuff like this. And no, I do not have any contacts with them about this case whatsoever. Okay.
Understood.
So Brian Davis's company is somebody called Urban Echo Energy LLC, and they are the plaintiff on this lawsuit. And the defendant is not Little Danny. It's not Pro Football Inc., which owns the Washington Seawards. It's not the team itself. The only sole defendant is Bank of America.
Right.
What is going on here? So Urban Echo presented what's called two bank drafts. It's called a bank draft. Think of a bank draft as basically a certified check.
Right.
And
a little more behind it, but for all purposes.
It's in essence a certified check.
Yeah.
He presented this. Urban Echo, Brian through Urban Echo presented this to Bank of America for deposit into an account held by Urban Echo. And Bank of America allegedly did not deposit it, and they did not return the bank draft. So the causes of action in this thing is only two. There's conversion, and then what's something that's called replevin, which if you know anything about the law, that's like a law school concept you don't ever hear about. Conversion is basically theft. It's basically civil theft. He's saying Bank of America stole this check or these bank drafts rather, because we presented them to them. They didn't deposit them. They didn't give them back. They're holding them hostage. And if you know anything about a certified check, what that means in a bank draft, it means, and they're from Citibank. Citibank would have debited the account prior to issuing the check. And replevin is a plea to return the stuff. And then he later filed a emergency temporary restraining order, basically asking the court on an emergency basis to do what I'm suggesting, which is deposit the thing or return the thing. So that's the basics. But there's super interesting here. Number one, I published. I don't normally do this on the website because it's a hassle and we don't have a ton of space to publish a bunch of photos. But I published the photo for a reason. I didn't get a chance to get into this because I kind of ran out of time. Right. But if you look at the bank draft itself, okay, what we have here is the payee is Bank of America Private Bank. Okay. It's drawn on Citibank. Okay. $5 billion, first one. Well, you have to, the bank signs these things and then the parties sign this thing. So this thing is signed by somebody named, it's hard to see, Tresana. The last name is Rodriguez, as administrator for the estate of somebody called Severino Garcia something I can't read.
Right.
Nowhere on this check does it say Urban Echo, okay?
Or Brian Davis.
Severino G. Romana, Severino Romana. And so this money is from the account of whoever Severino Romana is. It's an estate. An administrator of an estate means the guy is dead. That's what that means. And so somehow, whether by hook or by crook or by legitimate means, Brian Davis has got a certified check from the estate of some random dead guy for $5 billion.
Right.
And again, it's not an account. This is not the president of Urban Echo, and there's a subsidiary called Urban Echo. What the hell is it called? Urban Echo Energy. There's a subsidiary involved in this too. Urban Echo Capital Heights LLC. And that's the petition alleged that the funds were drawn from an account controlled by Urban Echo Capital Heights LLC. But the administrator, the signature is the administrator of the estate of this Severino Romano. Who in the hell is Severino Romano? And why is it in his estate? What does that have to do with Urban Echo? It is really freaking weird. I'm telling you who that is. I don't know. I'm going to research this if I can. And here, and to bring it up, because Alex asked me this ahead of time, one of these media outlets reported that Wells Fargo is something called a transfer agent. What that is basically a transfer agent is a retained accountant, more or less, a fancy accountant, but that's somebody who's managing the financial doings of their client. And so they've retained Wells Fargo that's not a big deal.
Well, it's not, except for the fact that the phone number for this transfer agent isn't a Wells Fargo phone number. It was a seafood outlet called Superior Seafood.
Was that reported, or did you?
Yep, that was reported.
Okay, and
so there might not be a transfer agent.
Yeah, and so I can tell you, I can't talk about Bank of America in particular, okay?
Right.
But like I said, but
in general,
in general, large banks don't operate by the seat. I have done two fun things that are really funny. I've done hundreds and hundreds of 7, 8, and 9-figure transactions, okay? Hundreds of them. Not hundreds of 9-figure, but hundreds of 7 and 8-figure transaction over a lot of years. Two things. One, major banks are very heavily regulated, and they're watched over by the FDIC, federal laws, state laws. They have processes for this. They don't do things like somebody shows up with a $5 billion check, and there's another one for $100 million by the same guy, by the way. It was drawn two things. They don't just like drop it in a desk drawer and forget about it, and they don't like hold your money hostage. There's a reason they did this. I would strongly suspect that Bank of America suspects fraud. I don't know this.
Absolutely. We're dummies, Dave and I, and we know it's fraud at some level.
Yeah. So here's the other thing, though. Of all of the hundreds of transactions I've done, you want to know how many I can think of where we did bank drafts?
Well, you say in your article you can think of one or two.
The answer is zero. The one I can think of was I sold some property, a commercial property at a foreclosure sale one time in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and the dude showed up with the check.
Okay.
That's the only time I ever remember doing a check. 100% of business transactions are done by wire. It is highly unusual, especially for this amount of money, highly unusual that anybody would do a bank draft, because you have to transport a bank draft. A wire goes electronically in a matter of hours. It's weird from the start.
People can even think of the times they're just buying their homes. Generally speaking, you might have written a check for like the initial deposit, but everything would have been done via wire for that.
Everything is done via wire. Wire is the industry standard. And again, I say, who under God's green earth is Severino Romana, and why is he signing? And
or
why
she,
does
I don't even know what that
or
means.
she? It could be a she. True. I don't know who that is. And why does Brian Davis think Bank of America is going to deposit a check payable to Bank of America Private Bank signed by Severino Romana in an account controlled by Urban Echo? Perhaps Bank of America had the same question, which is why they didn't actually deposit it.
Well, I mean, and look, these were photos of the check sent by Brian Davis's people.
It was attached to a verified statement filed with the petition.
Right, but that was filed by Brian Davis, right? That's
filed by Urban Echo Energy, but yes.
But they were attached to a statement. Steve, that's my point.
They were attached to a verified statement signed by Brian Davis individually.
Okay. But my point being, we don't even know if those are real checks. This could all be some bad Photoshop job that he came up with.
It could, and the big one, the $100 million one, the small one, looks like it's like taken on like somebody's bad living room carpet. I mean, it's really weird.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just like the article I shared with you today, even the judge her name was Judge Deborah Boardman. You know, the one part that she found awfully suspicious with all this is that the original lawsuit that was filed was for a $500 billion figure. For now, it decreased down like 99% to where it's like 900.
Okay, stop right there. It was never a $500 billion lawsuit. That's a total error. It never was a $500 billion lawsuit. That's just flat out incorrect. Somebody is either misread it, or it's like it's a pacer error or something. The lawsuit damages itself are the following: one, deposit to two checks, which are worth a total of $5.1 billion. And then there's some unstated damages tacked on, like, expenses and attorney's fees and stuff. And there's unspecified punitive damages. Nowhere is there any claim for $500 billion at all. It's $5.1 billion plus some unstated damages and expenses. That's it. There is not a $500 billion lawsuit or claim in this at all. That's just wrong.
So, by the way, I'm starting to do a deep dive on that name, the Romana name there.
Oh, good.
Steve, this is a level of crazy that we can't even get into here.
Go ahead.
It is the alias of supposedly the alias of a Colonel Severno Santa Roma, who is a religious fanatic in the Philippines. Yep. That's what this one site is claiming.
And Dave just emailed me or texted me by AJ Perez, what is an entry in the federal docket? So this is a Pacer thing.
Yeah.
This is wrong. It's not, the demand is not $500 million. This is an error in Pacer. The demand is $5.1 billion, period, dot, the end story.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how legit.
This is why you shouldn't let reporters analyze legal stuff.
Yeah. I'm not sure how legit the thing I found is, but this could be all kinds of like deep dive.
Wait. Say it again. It's
some religious fanatic, supposedly in where did I say, the Philippines.
Holy moly! I mean, what is going? What?
And he has a bunch of aliases by which he transfers money.
Well, he's dead, so.
Well, I don't think he is. I think
he is dead because
I think there's a fake person who's dead.
No, the checks are signed by Rodriguez, who's the administratrix. I can never say that word. Administrator for the estate of Severino Garcia Romano.
I'm just saying this is some Nigerian prince level stuff, is what it is.
It sounds like you're gonna make me Google this now too.
Yeah, like just read the. Now they're not credible because all these websites are like random, like third.
Am I gonna get a virus if I?
You might.
You might. Go incognito mode. And you'll be fine.
You might see a lot of extra skin that you don't want to see.
Yeah, I know. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't want something to come up that's.
No, we don't want that. But needless to say, this is some crazy stuff. Brian Davis is the madman side of Dan Snyder without the money.
Oh my God, it gets better, Alex.
Yeah.
So now I'm on. So I did click through something. That's something called deepblacklies.co.uk. The title of this thing is Opus Dei.
Yep. It's weird cult money is what it is.
Yes, and it's talking about it's something about $50 trillion of gold plundered by the Japanese. I'm 100% serious.
I believe you.
Gold plundered by the Japanese in the Philippines.
So this is why you're not getting your money back, Brian Davis. You're literally using fiction money.
And it's something about the CIA. He's involved in the CIA. This needs to be like a Harrison Ford movie or something.
This makes the whole sovereign citizen type people look sane. It is.
Yes. There's
if you don't know what sovereign citizens are, not getting into that here. We can talk about that on another show.
It's crazy. Yeah. This could only happen to Washington.
Yes. This is fantastic nonsense.
It's fantastic. It's just fun. So
don't
what's
Google any of this at work, by the way, folks.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, I'm not. Matter of fact, I'm not comfortable even Googling it at home. To be honest, but so what's going to happen from here? I would assume Bank of America is going to file a motion to dismiss as soon as possible.
Yep.
The TRO, what a TRO is a temporary restraining order. That's asking the court to issue an emergency order, and so there's a couple elements to it. That he's going to have to prove. One is basically the big part of it is one, you have a case you can win, which he doesn't probably, but the other part of it is. Are the damages such that if you let the lawsuit play out, there's going to be irreparable harm? And so the idea here would be the irreparable harm is that the team is sold.
I'm going to say there's irreparable harm to your and my computers now just Googling this crazy person.
Yeah, it's Severino Romano. Yeah, that may be true. Yeah. So where's this going?
And if I even attempted to do that, I'd probably black out right now. My laptop's so old.
Yes.
Yeah, don't do that. So where's this going from here, though? I mean, if Brian Davis has a real case, which at this point seems like it's like Crazy Town, I think the idea would be then that he would maybe ask a court to restrain the sale. But you have to understand something. The court really doesn't have the right to restrain a sale.
Right.
it's a private sale between private parties. Danny can accept whatever offer he wants. He didn't have to take the highest offer. He can take whatever
we could have
offer
offered him $1 and he couldn't take it in theory.
He could. Yeah. And so there's not really a reason. Now, where you could, if this is real, which I don't think we all agree, it looks ridiculous, right? But if it was real.
I think these checks are fictional.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah. But if Bank of America really didn't do the right thing, if the stars align and, Jimi Hendrix returns from the dead and this is real.
Right.
And Bank of America messed it up, then you could, and they're the agent for Snyder. And so then you could maybe worm your way in that way, I guess. But I would be stunned beyond all capacity to be stunned if this doesn't die on the vine.
Yep. Wow. All right. We almost need a palate cleanser.
That blew my mind. I mean, I didn't think you were going to say he's a Filipino gold,
Nigerian
CIA
prince
operative.
Scam. Yeah. That's where this money is, folks. That's
the $1 million question would be, let's pretend that part is true.
Right.
How on earth did Brian Davis get to know the administrator of the estate of the Filipino CIA operative who has $50 trillion in gold?
Steve, my question would also be, assuming these checks are real, who at Citibank okayed this?
Yeah, that's the other question.
Because that's somebody who should just be fired.
I represent Citibank too, so I can't get into them.
All right, fair enough. You are not saying that. I'm saying that.
Yeah.
But Jeezy, Pete.
It's crazy. This is the most insane story we've ever done.
It might be. And we were not planning on it getting that insane.
No, but I'm glad you Googled it, Alex. My God.
You and I might very carefully have to look and see what else is out there on this guy.
What I'm going to do is clean my history of internet after we get done with this. So
download one of those web browsers that doesn't track your history.
Yeah, I think Google has a private browsing thing, right?
They do.
Yeah, I have to figure that out.
Incognito mode.
I'm going to get
use it to look for porn. Steve's going to look at this stuff.
For Severino Romano. I'm going to get like a visit from the CIA or something if I'm not careful.
Yeah, that's why I definitely won't do it at my work with my government furnished
No, not
laptop.
at my work either, for sure.
All right, let's change gears a little. Quick palate cleanser. There was no vote on Josh Harris at the owners' meetings, which happened this week. They did vote on some stuff that'll piss Dave off. Like now they will flex schedule Thursday nights on weeks 13 through 17, it sounds like, which is awful in my opinion, and I'm sure in your opinion,
just
Dave,
ridiculous.
as a season ticket holder.
Well, I don't have to worry about that for the Reds for Washington anyway this year anyway, because they ain't gonna flex any of their games anywhere, most likely.
No, probably not. The one thing they did that I think was smart was they said they have to give 28 days notice on what games will be flexed when. So that's good.
Well, they have to because I mean you have ticket holders, season ticket holders that they plan. I mean they don't have the money to sit there and change these plans at the whim. They take advantage of deals in the future or in the past and set themselves up for that period to travel if they want to or whatever, or time off of work if they need to.
Games. All the time. I mean, I know you're a long drive, but it's a long drive. Yeah. You could do it in a day if you had to. Don't want to, I'm sure. But yeah, that helps. I still would have just not done it if I were the NFL, but they don't care about what fans want. They care about what money wants, and money wants this. There was one other big change. Oh, the third quarterback. They said NFL teams get to dress 3 quarterbacks now, and it doesn't count against their magic number 46 or whatever.
And the only time they can, and the only way they can get to that emergency quarterback is that both quarterbacks have to be injured.
This is otherwise known as the Brock Purdy rule.
Right.
Yes.
Also known as the have some common sense rule, but
yeah, well, because you don't want to have to throw the running back out there as the quarterback unless you have to.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm still just sitting here stunned at this Nigerian prince scam thing.
I think we finally stumped Steve. It only took 5,000 shows.
That's just unbelievable. I mean,
Steve, I'm gonna give you. Well, here's the problem.
Because I saw the name on the check when I read all this stuff.
Yep.
And I thought I gotta look up, figure out. Well, I did. I know. I said, who in the hell is this Severino Romano guy? But I didn't Google it and find it. That's wow.
Yeah. I'm shocked no one else has done that. Honestly, we might have stumbled into something because AJ Perez and all those guys haven't mentioned this dude.
But go ahead.
Sounds like an article.
I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
But
all right.
Sounds like an article, Steve.
The U.S. Patent and Trade Office, they have officially rejected the Washington Commanders trademark, which, in full context, and Steve being the lawyer, me being a nerd about this stuff, not a huge deal in the end. Like, you can work out they rejected it because Lockheed Martin hosts something called the Commanders Classic game, which is Army versus Air Force. It's a football game.
Okay, first of all, Lockheed Martin is just a sponsor, okay?
Right. Sorry. Yes, you're
Don't
right.
Be clear. I mean, Lockheed Martin doesn't hold it's like some entity that owns the bowl game is the one who owns this, whatever this game is.
Right. And Lockheed, they're the main sponsor. USA Bank's a sponsor.
That's just a spy. They have nothing to do with the trademark.
No, I understand that. But
you said it totally wrong. That's why I'm saying it.
But all right, so there's this bowl game, or I don't even know if it's a bowl game or if it's just the game when these two teams play.
The Commanders Classic. Let's Google
the
that.
Commanders Classic game between Army and Air Force.
Classic 2023.
I believe Air Force beat Army. So
this is the Army and Air Force annual Army and Air Force game dubbed the Commanders Classic.
Yeah, so it's not even really a bowl game.
It's not a bowl game. Okay.
They probably have like a gold dipped, boot or something like that they give each other.
Right.
That kind of thing. College used to be fun like that, and that's what you actually played for was weird trophies.
Point is, whoever created this idea owns that trademark.
Right.
That's what we're saying.
The trademark office said it conflicts with that, and it conflicts with our old buddy McCauley.
Philip McCauley.
Martin McCauley. Martin.
Sorry, Martin McCauley,
who copyrighted the Wolf Commanders and Space
Commanders.
Commanders.
About 15 of them at least.
Yeah,
I talked to him.
Yeah,
I think I was the first person in the media or fake media to ever talk to Martin McCauley. I just emailed him and said, "Hey, would you talk?" And he said yes. I talked to him a couple times at great length for half an hour. I
thought you didn't want to deal with him anymore. You emailed him again?
Well, I am done with him. I'm not calling him again. But I did talk to him more than once.
Right.
And I didn't ever really. I mean, he told me that he did it as a hobby, which I always found to be I don't
laughable.
Know. Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's what he told me.
Hey, but Steve, he's not the craziest person we're going to talk about today.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't crazy. I mean, I just didn't really accept his answer. But So look, Washington can the entity that owns Washington, be it Pro Football Inc. or Josh Harris's company or entity or whatever, can go cut a deal with Martin McCauley and make him go away. The other one
a few $100 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Whatever it is. Yeah, the other one's a bit harder, but they can do the same general thing. Because that's McCauley isn't doing anything with these trademarks,
right?
But the other one is, so they can cut some kind of arrangement and make it work if they want to.
There's mutual agreements you can come to. You get your lawyers and their lawyers in the room, say there's not going to be confusion. We're all good. You can figure it out.
You can cut a deal. It's kind of funny.
It's very funny.
Of course, what trademark is available?
Redskins.
Yes,
I know that one's available. Yes,
that one is available.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. So many. I don't know if it is, Steve. Somebody might have squatted on it.
No. That's still owned by.
It's I know it is the NFL or the NFL or somebody.
No, it's owned by Pro Football Inc.
Okay. But yeah, the irony that one of the excuses they said where we won't go Red Wolves because it's too confusing and too close to Timberwolves. Because that was their reasoning. They're like, we couldn't get it through the trademark office. They wouldn't let us do it. We're sure of that.
Ironically.
Did you not maybe think to ask your patent and trade attorneys, hey, do you think there's anything that this will conflict with?
Well, there's a lot of Commanders stuff, and I mean,
right.
It's not my universe, so I can't talk too much about it. But
No.
I mean, there are major law firms that do this all the time.
Yeah, I don't know the person, but I do know somebody whose daughter works there and would actually know exactly all this. If I could somehow get to them, I would ask them. But
Dave, you had a name kind of point you wanted to bring up, right, before the show?
It's just something that's been going around the fan base and stuff, junkies and Kevin Sheehan and all them putting polls out in terms of what the priorities of Josh Harris's what Josh Harris should have. Should it be a full rebrand or something else? And of course, there's a lot of people talking about the fact that, well, we got to do a full rebrand, number one.
Right.
And for me, for as much as I still can't get used to the name to the level that some have. I've just learned to kind of deal with it going forward, and it's not a great name. And for as much as I would love to see that rebrand, that's one of my things I would love to see happen. Go back to the Redskins, of course, absolutely. But right now, for me, I don't see how anyone could think that Josh Harris's number one goal is to get this organization to be a legitimate organization again, an organization that actually functions properly, an organization that gains a reputation of, hey, listen, free agent calls his agent, hey, I would love to go to Washington. The front office, there's so much in terms of what this team and organization needs to do for a facelift that for guys like me and Steve, for as important as the name Redskins is, for that to come back, would love for that to come back. I would love for Josh Harris to go, listen, I'm going to put a little team off to the side. They're going to do everything they can to get this name back. That's fine. I would love to see that, and I would love to push for that. But that's not the number one thing. I want to see this organization get back to credibility again, which has fallen short of that under the tyrannical reign of Daniel Snyder.
For me, I don't know how fans can ignore the off-field stuff and just say, "Yeah, I'm only rooting for the team on the field." I can't fool myself like that. And part of the reason why my fandom disappeared, and because I've been honest here, I don't want to lie to you guys.
Right.
The main it's two reasons. One, the name left. The name Redskins is very important to me. But the other part is I cannot root for a company that is awful. I cannot, and I will not. I don't support companies that that do dumb things. I make an effort to stay away. I'm not going to get into the politics of it here. We all have mothers, wives, girlfriends, sisters, friends who are female. I cannot support a team, an organization that treats women like they have and all the other horrible, slimy things they've done. And so those two things. And so it's two for me. Do you want me to come back? Part one is fix that. And that's sort of what Dave is saying.
Yep.
That's one. But equally important is I will not root for the Washington Commanders. I will not. I will never root for the Washington Commanders. So if the name doesn't change, I'm just gone forever. To me, that needs to be part number 1A. To have me come back, because the name, I was reluctantly okay with Washington football team because I could kind of pretend it was Redskins still. The Washington Commanders is horrible and awful and stupid.
It's a terrible name.
It's an insult, and it's not what I grew up with. If Redskins can't come back, it's got to be Red Wolves, Red Tails, something that harkens. Yeah, something that harkens back to that era. Also, I'm just done forever. But the bigger part is what Dave said is, you got to have a credible. If you can't not abuse the women in your office, I'm never going to root for you ever again.
Well, and
I can't separate it.
I think Dan Snyder, one way or the other, is gone at this.
Eventually,
it hasn't happened yet, but even with all the weird stuff with the Harris deal that they talked about at length
it'll work out. People just aren't used to seeing this stuff. It's a bit unusual, but it'll get done.
And part of it is this is a huge financial deal. It's going to get more and more complicated the bigger these deals get. I think we all understand that at some level. So hopefully when they come in, from all accounts, they run a good ship. at Harris's other orgs. So like that stuff will be better, hopefully, and we don't know, but hopefully all the things Jason Wright did right were, put in a good HR department, stop abusing people. But they say that's the case. I don't know, but I hope they're telling the truth there. The name stuff, yeah, look, I think we all agree Commanders is terrible. I understand why a lot of people say, oh, no, you can't do it again. You can't do it again, blah, blah. We're in uncharted territory. This is
right.
Like, do whatever you want. Josh Harris, you could use this whole, the trademark failed, we're changing again.
Now,
I don't think he will. I think odds are that they're going to say, we've got to deal with the financial situation we're going to be in, but because that's crazy. We got to deal with the stadium situation because that's going to be crazy, and we're going to get to that in a minute. And then we got to deal with figuring out, is this team going to be any good under Ron Rivera, or do we need to find new coaches and a new, that side of things. Also, what do you do with Jason Wright? By the way, I'm not an advocate for fire any of these people right away. I think Harris needs to come in, assess, do a good, fair assessment, give these guys a season, then you start canning people you don't think work.
Well, actually, the way Josh Harris should do it, the way I think it should be done is when he comes in, he sits down, and in his first press conference, he already has his GM in tow with him. And he sits down and he starts, has his normal speech and spiel or whatever, and and then turn around and say any and all football questions about football operations or whatever, speak to this man, whoever it is, to my left, and he's going to be evaluating everything, everyone, and every decision will go through him. He finalizes everything, and that's it.
More of a team president who does that, not.
I mean, if I were Josh Harris, I'd fire everybody as soon as possible. All of them. I'd burn the whole place to the ground, figuratively speaking. Now you can't do that on the eve of the season, but within a year, everybody would be gone. To me, you have to, when it's an organization is as much of a train wreck as it is. I think you got to start completely over from scratch. I would fire every single person in that building.
Well, if he does anything he did with the Devils and the Sixers, he's going to have that guy come in next to him and say, that's where the decision is going to come through. And he's going to bring in his guy.
Yeah.
And his guy is going to evaluate everyone.
Okay. Fine. I mean, he may do it via proxy, but everybody would be gone if it were me.
Look, I think a lot of people will be gone, but I think they will give them through the season to.
Oh, sure. I just think it's only because it's impractical to do it now. That's the only reason I would wait.
Well, they might say, hey, you know what? We got good groundskeepers. Keep the groundskeepers.
They freaking need to be gone too, those bastards.
Well, they finally figured out how to make grass grow, Steve. It only took them 25 years.
I heard they were cutting Nazi swastikas in the ground, with lawnmowers.
We did not actually hear this disclaimer. Okay,
satire.
So, I said we should talk about it. We'll get to it kind of briefly because I don't think Steve read up on this part. One of the sites
I can pretend I did.
Yes, one of the sites. Well, it's right up your alley. You'll read this eventually.
Okay.
The Poplar Point site, which is the only other place in D.C. outside of RFK that a stadium could ever go. It's 110 acres, so small. You could only really fit a stadium in a parking lot there.
Yeah, that's not a ton of space. It's
not
for a stadium.
But all right. So in 2005 through 2008.
Stop right there. Who owns this part? This.
It's NPS, but they've been trying to sell it to DC for years.
National Park Service. So is this like DC has a hope that somebody would sell it to them, or does the National Park Service actually
They tried to get
this
done in 2005 to 2008 in tandem with the Park Service, and then when the economy crashed, it all fell through.
Okay. So
they are taking RFPs, which is requests for proposals, from various builders of what to do with this 110 acres. A lot of people saw this and they think right away, oh, that could be a better site for a stadium because it's where all the other stadiums are. It's just across the river from Nats Park and the soccer stadium. It's right next to a metro. So there's a sound argument for it. Now there are issues. The city wants a lot of the parkland to be repurposed as parkland still, even if it's redone as, a commercial estate. I don't think they're against the idea of a stadium going there, because initially the plan was that was where they were going to put a soccer stadium, which is smaller, but it would still take up a lot of real estate, a soccer stadium. So just if you want a stadium in DC, here's what I'll say. This is a more likely spot than RFK. RFK has way too many nightmares logistically.
No.
Too many NIMBYs over there. So this is like right off a highway. You got a highway on one side, river on the other. So
I'm looking at it now on the Google Maps. I mean, it's not a half bad spot.
It's not a half bad spot at all. It is tight. Like I said, I did a little quick map of just what the RFK and the FedEx footprint would look like over top of it. They would fit. FedEx is way too big. It's going to have to be smaller than FedEx, though. Like, we got to be realistic on that kind of thing. And, there is parkland there that you could repurpose as, keep as parkland, and, you could fit some stadium lots around it, but you wouldn't be able to put a practice facility there. People have been talking a lot about that. But
that's kind of the norm now. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what teams kind of want. They don't want the practice facility to be away from the stadium, and a lot of the new stadiums have that.
I understand that.
And I don't think you would want to have a practice facility in downtown DC anyway, frankly.
No, you probably wouldn't want to put it right there. It's not a great spot.
No, you wouldn't. I mean, because the players live in Virginia. None of them want to live in downtown DC and Southeast somewhere. I mean, I think they want a practice facility to be out in the suburbs somewhere.
No, I mean, look, if a practice facility by RFK wouldn't actually be bad, because that's all fancy rich people now over there. So that would be
different. But this one is in Southeast near Anacostia. They need
this is
armed bodyguards to
the metro
to
station
that
we would all be going to go there for a stadium would be Anacostia Station.
Yeah, we need to be, have an armed bodyguard.
It's fine during the daytime. Night games would be dicey, but it'd be okay. It's a 2-block walk, by the way, from the station to where they would be talking.
Yeah, and you find the star running back's wife and see if she wants to walk to the game. Well,
the star running back's wife gets a parking spot. Also, are there star running backs really anymore?
What else would you call Jonathan Williams?
Okay, fair enough.
I can't believe you just completely bypassed Jared Patterson.
Yeah, that's true. He's the star.
Jared Patterson is from the area, man. No one's gonna mess with him or his wife.
So I mean, it sounds like a semi-reasonable. If the Park Service truly is still interested in selling it, that's a great step one. That's good news.
But it's the same logistical issues like with RFK in that respect.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the problem is, like, who's going to pay for this? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The DC government is not a state. They don't have a ton of cash laying around. They have a loan out. The money that they used to build, what's the national stadium called?
Nats Park. Yep. We still don't have a sponsor, I don't think.
Okay. I mean, the city took a loan to do that. And that was a lot of years ago for a much smaller stadium. I mean, it's, if the National Park Service sold it hypothetically to DC, in the DC Sports and Convention Authority or somebody did this, they would need to come up with $1 billion at least.
Yeah.
To do this, because Harris isn't paying for it all. He may pay for some of it. Where is DC going to get that money?
Well, apparently we are owed over $1.5 billion in unpaid parking tickets and speeding tickets from Marylanders and Virginians who
are going to collect all the parking tickets.
If you don't know, if you live in Maryland and Virginia, you don't have to pay parking and speeding tickets in the city. It's a weird, like, they don't have reciprocity situation. Yeah. So, like, technically, if we could get that, we could pay for the stadium all with that. That's our solution.
Okay. Let's find another solution. So I just don't think it's, years ago, decades ago, it's a lot cheaper to build a stadium.
Yeah.
It's by anybody's estimation $1 billion project now. Even a bare bones one would be $1 billion. I just think it's not impossible, but it's very difficult.
Well, I mean, I've heard like these new hockey stadiums that they're talking about building everywhere are over $1 billion for a hockey stadium.
Yeah, well, I mean, presumably DC would issue bonds or something to do this.
Yeah.
But I mean, somebody's got to pay for that. I mean, and I continue to believe it is irresponsible of any government who are guardians of the public trust to contribute that much money to a football team.
I think we all agree there.
Yeah.
You know, that $1.5 million number we were talking about the other day, that's insane.
Billion.
Sorry, billion. I said billion.
Be clear,
right. Yeah. So anyway, a lot of wild stuff going on with the team in the off-field sense. And now Steve and I are going to just keep deep diving on what might be the craziest
Severino or Garcia Romano. We'll see what we can come up. If we're in handcuffs next week, you'll know why.
Oh, I'm more worried about some cultist showing up to my house with machetes or something, you know?
Well, seriously. I mean, the CIA would probably be after me and some cult would be after you. We'll both go down.
So do we need to get no one from Tampa on reserve here just in case I have to do the show with him?
Yeah, maybe so.
He might have some contacts that could help us out, actually. It wouldn't surprise me. All right, guys. That should wrap us up
Jamal
this week.
back. We'll bring Jamal back. He can run the show. And
I'm going to make Jamal do the searches. Are you kidding me?
All right,
Let him
guys.
research Garcia Severano.
Everyone's now going to be searched. Everyone who listens to this is going to do a search. I guarantee you.
I did notice the name. I just hadn't gotten around to Googling. I'm glad you did that.
Yeah. And I'm glad I told you about it because it's nuts.
Wow.
Yep.
Holy cow.
All right, guys. We will talk to you next week.
I hope people know.